What is your accidentally caught your spouse cheating horror story? Story 1. Dating this girl a few years back and I became really good friends with her brother, just because he appreciated my help during a difficult time for their family. Their father had abruptly passed away. 2 years into the relationship, the brother contacted me and asked to meet up for coffee and a serious conversation. Apparently, he caught his own sister with another guy, mutual friend of ours, and this shit had been going on for like a year. As soon as he found out, I was told. Broke up with her. Still friends with her brother. Go figure. Story 2. Not me, but a medical resident who I met on rotation recently. One of the nicest guys I have ever met, super intelligent and hardworking, and training to be a trauma surgeon by humble as they come. He had been married for 2 years to his wife. One night, he gets off a 30-hour call early and heads home to surprise his wife with some flowers and her favorite dessert. It was the anniversary of the day they first met, only to find her in bed with a random dude. He was so exhausted and confused, he didn't know what to do and just left and went back to the hospital. I saw him at 5 a.m., sitting in the parking lot, hunched over crying. He didn't even have his phone with him. He was just sitting there. Man, nothing breaks your heart more than seeing a grown man cry. It's not something you see often. We called his dad up and he came and picked him up. The guy ended up taking a leave from his residency. Turns out, it wasn't the wife's first time sleeping around. Hope he gets back on his feet. He will make an amazing physician. Story 3. Things had been a little shaky as I was working a lot and felt sapped when she wanted to go be social with friends, so I often stayed home. I wanted to do something nice for her for Valentine's Day, so I sent her friend a text asking if there was something that she may have mentioned she would like to do. As I was waiting on that text, I was in another room. I saw her phone buzz with her friend's name. The number was below the name, and since I had just sent her a text, I knew they didn't match. There are very few times my blood has been that cold and feelings of dread. I called the number with my phone and it rang and rang before going to voicemail. Needless to say, it was the other guy. I confronted her about it and she said she was waiting to leave and had a bag packed in case I found out. She had no intentions of trying to work things out, so a month later, she had moved out. I made a decision then that I could be broken up and miserable, or that I could choose to be happy and be open to a relationship if it was available. I've since remarried and have 2 beautiful boys with my amazing wife. Regardless of the shittiness and horror in these stories, there is always the opportunity to be happy. If you're reading this thread because it happened to you or just from morbid curiosity, choose to be happy. Be the person that you can be proud of and move on to better things. Story 4. I've posted about this before, but he changed his phone password. I left it for months until something just wasn't sitting right in my gut. I unlocked his phone with my thumb and I didn't even have to look. There was a messaging app open with a girl he was meeting the next day. I sent him to work without confronting him. I reset passwords through a long chain of emails to finally access the one associated with the messaging app. Lo and behold, he was sending approximately 10,000 emails per year for the last 4 years of our relationship. He was living a whole second life and hiding it from everyone. Our relationship had never appeared stronger, and we had been seeing a therapist to work on strengthening our communication for 8 months, once a week. Clearly, he was hiding his issues from the therapist as well. At the time, I felt like it ruined my life. I remember thinking very clearly, what did I do to deserve this? When I thought that, something inside of me just snapped. I calmly went and bought a giant coffee and cardboard boxes. I packed all his things up before he was home from work and changed our locks. The end. Edit. People are asking, I moved his things into storage and left the key along with passive-aggressive notes. He left me a short note apologizing for what he did and owning up to it. He made a social media post telling everyone what he did and asked they leave him alone and support me. I saw him weeks later to talk and he didn't try to hide what he had done and was transparent. I loved him, and if he had came to me and admitted he had this problem, I would have helped him seek therapy. It wasn't the subject matter so much that is the issue. An addiction is an addiction. It's the lying. Story 5. I opened my sister's door to ask for a hair tie and she was fucking my boyfriend. This was in high school, but still. I spit on them, yelled why, and went downstairs to leave. My dad is in the living room on the computer and asks, what's wrong? I say go upstairs and see for yourself. I ran outside and heard the yelling right away. My dad chased him out of the neighborhood naked. She got shipped to my mom's house shortly after that and got pregnant at 17 years old. Edit. This was just the start with her. To answer some questions, I asked why later and he said he did it because she would have sex and I wouldn't. I was still a virgin and she was sexually active at 12. No, I never spoke to him again. He's actually a meth head now. She slept with another one of my boyfriends a year later. Another one, I found them kissing on our front porch one day after grade 12. Fast forward to me, being fresh out of high school. Full-time job that I loved. She's knocked up with number 2, and my dad made me quit my job and move in with her to watch my 1-year-old niece so she could finish high school. She does. Then has their baby and is too lazy to raise either, so I do for a year. I finally say enough. I didn't want to leave my niece and nephew, but I was a kid and wanting my own life and not to live in her apartment with her new boyfriend and 2 kids. I moved back home and start a new life. My nephew's father ends up getting custody. She didn't try to fight and didn't show up to 3 different court dates to try and win him back at all. So she takes my niece and splits up north to hide in our hometown. By now, my niece is 3, and from up until now, she turns 18 on the 9th. She has lived in 4 different provinces in Florida twice. My sister has ran all over the country, going through probably around 100 men. She's been engaged more than I can count. Back to me. When I moved back home, got my life back together, and my own place about a year later, who comes knocking at the door, my sister and niece. Can we stay for a bit? Of course. You're my sister. She fucks my roommate. Doesn't take care of my niece. She's getting high and whatnot. My niece gets smoked in the head by one of the guys she's hanging around with a golf club. I take her for stitches. Tell her to go back home and stay there. She does, thankfully. She cleans herself up a bit and goes to college. Fast forward to me getting married and having my own 2 kids. She comes to visit with her fiancé and my niece. She is now 6. And I catch sister trying to blow my husband. Goodbye for another 2 years, and eventually goodbye to the husband too. That's a whole other issue. The jerk. Fast forward again, and I'm with my first kiss from 13. My soulmate, barf, and unbeknownst to me, he has a drinking problem. She takes advantage of that. She has admitted in the past when I've asked why she keeps doing this to me, that she can't stand that I've always been successful and happy, so she tries to ruin it or take it away and starts sexting my boyfriend. They texted for a few days and felt bad. I read them, and that was that. He did cheat with other women, but was also blackout drunk for the better part of 2 years. He quit, has been sober since December 12, 2014. Different man. Amazing man and father. My sister, on the other hand, I finally had enough, and at our little sister's wedding, right at the end, I told her to never call me, message me, or try to reach me. Forget I'm her sister because she's never treated me as such. We haven't spoken since then. That was 2013. She's still the same. My niece gets no attention. My mom has basically raised her when she's been close to them to take care of her. She comes to our house a lot too. My sister is too busy worrying about this man or the next. Too busy getting stoned. I'm not against smoking a joint. And too busy with her own life. She should never have been a mother. Story 6. Get in his car. The seat was pushed all the way back, and there was a bracelet on the floor. The first thing I asked was if he had cleaned off the seat when he had finished. He said yes. Then he realized he was talking to his girlfriend, not one of the many friends who knew about his affair. The best part is, we were all packed up for a weekend out of town for his cousin's wedding. His parents were in the car behind us. I went. We didn't speak the entire weekend. Story 7. Didn't happen to me, but my closest friend growing up. He was making out with his girlfriend in the back of her car, which at the time she had only had for a week, and he put his hand on the back of the car somewhere between the back of the headrests and the rear windshield. I guess the opposite of a dashboard. Anyways, he put his hand in a semi-fresh load of jizz, and her answer was that her gum must have flown from her mouth and land back there, and the sun melted it into a jizz-like substance. Story 8. I caught my ex thanks to Pokemon Go of all things. She mentioned Pokemon Go was using lots of her data. I explained that in her settings she could see how much data an app was using. I proceeded to show her and prove to her it wasn't by pointing out Tinder was using much more data. It was sad, but also funny the way it went down. Story 9. My wife had been texting a lot and was very evasive when I inquired about it, though she smirked when she thought it was making me jealous. Yeah, she's that kind of person. Turns out she'd left her email logged into my cell phone. So I noticed that she had a weekend Airbnb trip to a place that was a state away. We were living in different states at the time. That seemed to be of the quiet, romantic getaway type. Total occupancy. 2? Well, I thought that was fairly suspicious. So I monitored her Airbnb page, which was easy since we were friends on Airbnb, figuring that the owner might leave a comment about how great she was as a guest, which it turned out she did. except the review went something like, wife's name and guy not named me were wonderful guests and so on. Yeah, so anyone want to guess what the conditional probability is of that weekend trip involving infidelity? Pretty sure it's high. Wife apparently panicked, asked Airbnb to remove the review, altered her name on the site, and then finally, having failed to get the review taken down, deleted her account. I eventually asked her about it during a counseling session, and she had a ready-made defense about how she'd meant to take the trip with another coworker, but that person's car broke down, so guy's name? Ended up tagging along since guy's name was that coworker's boyfriend, and they all stayed there together, but guy's name signed the guest book, hence a totally honest mistake. In hindsight, I am pretty sure she was not telling the truth. We're not still married. Story 10. I was on a very rare date night. Kids at the grandparents' house. I'm looking extra cute, so didn't even want to carry a purse or my cell. Used his phone on the way to the restaurant to confirm our reservations. After eating, used his phone again to get the movie times via text. Saw a name in the frequently sent. Asked him innocently, "Who is Lisa?" He snatched the phone and said, "My coworker." Fast forward 3 hours later, and I'm throwing his clothes into his car after going online and viewing the hundreds of texts sent to several women. But still, I was a fool for love and opted to stay. I was with him my entire adult life, so I didn't know anything different. That was 2006. We had our 19th anniversary in January. My divorce was final in March. He got married to another one of his many affairs in June. I'm enjoying being unattached and becoming an empty nester as of this fall. Story 11. One night she told me not to come over because she wasn't feeling well. But then my sister wanted this hoodie back that she'd borrowed, so I thought I'd stop over with chocolate and a Slurpee. I knocked on her door. She came to the upstairs window with only a blanket wrapped around her. "I thought I told you not to come over. My sister needs her hoodie." "Who's that?" says some male voice from her bedroom. "Ah, I see how it is. I'll talk to you tomorrow," she says. "Probably not. Have a good one." Story 12. After a night of trying to keep up with my ex and her coworkers drinking, I call it a night. They stopped talking a few minutes later and the dog scratched at the door. I let the dog in and saw them making out on the couch. I watched for 10 minutes before they noticed me. They were taking their clothes off by then, and he was touching her favorite spots like he knew them well. No denying it by then. I am glad I knew. A tense conversation followed with the two of them. He left, very drunk on a very cold night. She got a ride to her aunt's place and begged me to go look for him in the cold. Story 13. I got a new job with a cell phone company. Free phone for me, $15 a month for her. First bill comes in with call detail. She was on the phone an hour a day with this number while supposedly at work. I call dude, answers. I hang up. I ask her, she lies and said it was a female friend of hers. I told her I know she is lying and call it again. Dude answers, "If you broke?" Story 14. Had been on the road for work. It was supposed to be 10 days, so I got to go home a day early. Had a friend pick me up at the airport to surprise my wife and 2 children. 2 years and 8 months. Walked into my ex and her coffee friend snuggling on the couch, with my kids in the same room. I was livid. Of course she denied everything. We split up weeks later. Story 15. A friend of mine literally walked in on his wife and another guy doing it on their sofa. I guess he just yelled "what the fuck" and ran out. Facebook was a real shit show for a few days, and she even had the impudence to blame him back. The old "it's your fault I cheated." Luckily, there were no children in that marriage and not much money to fight over. Story 16. One day my husband was getting ready for work and I saw him packing his GoPro case so he could take it to work. I thought, that's weird. Why would he be taking it to work? So when he jumped into the shower, I replaced his GoPro with mine and thought I'd look through the files when he leaves for work. My suspicions were on alert because he had just taken a trip to the PI with some friends. A guy's only weekend kind of thing. Fire up the camera and found 3 videos. Lo and behold, there he is in all his glory barebacking a Filipino prostitute, looking and posing for the camera like he's some corn star. I was enraged, but also looking at this fool acting like he's an adult film star was hilarious. Story 17. Not my relationship, but my boyfriend's mom took me out to lunch to get to know me better. We really kicked it off and had a great lunch. She had to run home because she forgot to grab a gift for a shower we had to attend after, and we found her husband ducking the neighbor on the couch. She was mortified and never the same around me again. Her son and I split because of that. He didn't think his dad was wrong because his mom gained weight, as in she was now 140 pounds and 5 feet 6 and not 120, so I never found out what happened. Story 18. I found out my ex-boyfriend, dated from 15 to 18, had been cheating on me when, upon walking into the apartment, he shared with his mother and 2 elementary-age sisters. The youngest sister asked me, "When did you leave?" I asked her, "When was I here?" She responded, "You were here all night. I could hear you talking 2X's name." I had not been there for 2 days at that point. I asked him what she was talking about, and he blew bubbles for a few minutes before confessing, "Good riddance." Edit. Not sure if everyone knows blue bubbles means having nothing to say yet still talking. It may be local slang. Yes, though I do think the joke is funny. Story 19. Boyfriend finally convinces me to have a threesome after months of begging. I finally agree and our mutual friend comes over. Things get hot and heavy, and when he starts fucking her, he moans, "Damn, you feel even better than usual." Everyone freezes. He tries to tell me that he was thinking about my pussy while fucking her, and that it just felt differently. But she felt so guilty that she confessed on the spot and begged me to forgive her. We don't really talk anymore, but last I heard she had been dating my ex for over a year. Story 20. Walked in on my girlfriend while she was having sex with another guy. "What are you doing here?" she says. "You gave me a key, remember? I ended up not working today and wanted to surprise you." 15 years later, she reaches out, leaves me a message that she'd like to talk. I figure she's doing some 12-step thing or something and wants to make amends. Nope. She wanted to try and sell me on Amway. Story 21. Found my wife's notebook. Written on the first page was a 10-step plan detailing how she was going to leave me for another guy. I turned it into one step. Story 22. Her phone went off and she asked me what it said. I looked at it, and it said, "I want to bend you over and spank you." Story 23. Woke up to her on her phone with heart scrolling in Facebook Messenger. We were married 7 years at that point, 2 kids. It was my birthday. Edit. I won't feign total innocence. Marriage is hard. I was working and in school full-time so she could be a stay-at-home mom, which was our goal. She realized she wanted something else and moved on. Shit happens. Roll with the punches. Story 24. Came home early. They were fast enough to get dressed, but not in a natural state of being, if that makes sense. It was obvious something was just going down. Very Clay got walked in on and tried to play it cool like you see in TV. I asked him to leave and he did. We argued. She tried to lie, but soon confessed. It wasn't the first time she cheated, but it was the first time that I caught her in the act. Everything in the past was just texts and stuff. She said that she never slept with the other people and it was just pics and flirting. In retrospect, that may not be bullshit. We divorced, both remarried. Not friends by any stretch, but civil. Story 25. Went to log into email and a suggested one that I didn't recognize popped up. I answered all his security questions and reset his password to find emails between him and the neighbor. We were in therapy to recover from him cheating with her, and there they were waxing poetic about their love and when I'd be out of the house so they could be together. The actual horror story is that our 7-year-old daughter is the one who accidentally caught them originally by walking into our bedroom while I was at work. Story 27. Obligatory not me, but a friend. Early 2000s, my friend's husband was deployed to Iraq. Together they had a 10-year-old son and a happy marriage. One day while he was deployed, I am at home when another one of our friends calls and screams, "Holy shit. Turn on the news right now." I turn it on to watch a human interest story about a fundraiser at a high school 30 miles away. They're doing Relay for Life or something, and as a surprise to one of the participants, they had her husband and father of her 2 grade school children do a video call from Iraq and displayed it on the football jumbotron. There on our local news is my friend's husband, telling another woman and 2 kids how he loves them and can't wait to get back home to them. The news eats it up about what a great guy he is. That night, our group of friends convened and decided how we would tell her. I was nominated, so the next day I had to sit her down and tell her what we saw. She called the news station, and they were happy to let her come in and watch the story. They were also incredibly apologetic. Story has a somewhat crappy ending, I'm afraid. She called him out on his bullshit. They started divorce proceedings, and he went on to legally marry the mother of his other kids, and mostly ignored his son from the first marriage. Story 28. Came back from a trip 4 hours early. My wife was supposed to be at work still. Opened the front door to see her sitting topless on the couch, making out with a coworker. He ran out the door. She ran into a bathroom and locked the door. I sat on that couch for about an hour because I couldn't think what else to do. Finally just up and left so she could come out of the bathroom and put a shirt on. Story 29. Me and my girlfriend were long distance and she had a habit of going quiet sometimes. She'd been texting me for the last few weeks but had made excuses not to come come visit. I went to a party that my friend had organized. I met a friend of his who told me he had a new girlfriend. I was surprised he hadn't mentioned her, so I asked who she was. This lady introduced me to my girlfriend. She'd told everyone that we broke up and had been dating my friend for about a month. She didn't bother to tell me. Story 30. One of my former coworkers loaded in an SD card with a scanned project file on it. He put it into the conference room PC. We were treated to naked pics of his wife f***ing another guy. We were just stunned. This was in a senior budgetary meeting with the outside accountants and auditors. And he was sitting right there and we were looking at his wife and another guy going at it. I reached over and shut the projector off. Nobody said anything. He got up and walked out and drove off in his car. Left his phone and laptop sitting on the table. He wound up driving to his parents' house 3 states away. He was gone for a week.